hey. Can you hear me?
Hey, brother.
Hey, can you hear me?
Can now.
Alrighty. How are you?
Man, I don't even know. That's
What's
my
going
short
on?
answer.
What's going on?
Let me just get some stuff set up here.
Okay. Did you go to the mastermind on Sunday?
I did. Where were you? Why'd you
I
leave?
I flew back Saturday night, late night.
Why?
Two reasons. One, the flights were like $500 difference, and I just couldn't justify it in my mind. My daughter's birthday was on Friday, and I wanted to get back and do some birthday things with the family. So on Sunday. So there's a couple different reasons, but yeah. How was it?
Well, Steve got put on the hot seat.
What?
Yeah, it was interesting.
What happened?
The podcast was mutinied.
What?
No, I'm just
Oh, okay.
I'm using extreme language. No, it was good. Steve, the conversation ended up where, like, what do you guys need? What can I help you with? Right. From Steve. And I offered you the mastermind last time for $5,000. That was the flop. Like, you guys, I know you need help. Some of you are struggling to make money and stuff like that. And so, like, what's the problem? Like,
Yeah.
that type of thing. So the icons offered a few suggestions, and they were good suggestions.
Yeah.
And Matt Bronning sat there listening the whole time. He's sitting to my left. Steve was on my right. And Matt's good at listening and then taking it all and then bringing it back in a way that's very digestible. And he presented it. He's like, Steve, I think the issue is this. And he presented the whole thing, and I won't go into it. But then he offered a really good, I thought, very good solution. All the icons were like, yeah, that sounds awesome. That would work. So he was just like, and he wouldn't give any, like, I like it, I don't like it, F you, nothing. Just like, just stoic. And then it kind of wrapped up that section. Steve got up and just grabbed his papers and walked out. And everyone's like, are you all right? Like, where are you going? And he was like, no, I'll be back. I'm just kind of probably went to process or something.
Yeah.
And so I ended up speaking with him after, just quickly. I was like, what was that like for you, bro? And he goes, well, I've offered to, take this mastermind to continue it forward in between the summits, and it was a no-go. So yeah, that's where it's at.
Interesting.
And I was like, what about Matt's idea? Like, what'd you think of that? He usually go like, that won't work. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's just where he was at. So it was interesting because there was definitely a disconnect between his listening and what his clients, his icons, were saying.
Yeah.
There was definitely something there. So.
Well, and I think I don't know. I wasn't there, so I won't say that. But the short of it is I think that from the feedback I've been hearing from some icons, it's like, Steve's kind of capitalizing on us, and we're really not getting anything back from him. And I think that Steve's thing is that he's going to monetize everything he does, and there comes a point in which you have to balance like building a community that feeds you, and taking advantage of them. So.
Yeah, for sure. And one of my suggestions, I was like, bro, I only can speak for myself. And my biggest frustration is that when I come to this event and then we do this mastermind, I get all these great ideas and from other podcasters, how they're monetizing. And then as soon as I leave, I go back into the chaos and confusion of life.
Yeah.
And things get scrambled. And what was that they said? What's the missing step in that process that was just so brilliant? without that step, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Right.
And he doesn't let us record anything in the mastermind, which makes no sense to me, because on the stage, he's like, those other guys that don't let you record crap, that's crap, man.
Yeah,
record. I love that, right?
Yeah.
And then the mastermind, I brought in my camera. He's like, are you recording? And then Richie was recording something too. He's like, please shut that stuff off.
Yeah.
Like, just, and it was like, okay. So I said, listen, what would really work for me, brother, is if you, like, you're brilliant at bringing together a marketplace.
Yeah.
That's your brilliance. Like, you match make really well.
Yeah.
What could you do, like, to take this and, like, match me up, for example, with someone in the area that I'm stuck right now, which is building funnels.
Yeah.
You know, and how do I actually create that profit path?
Yeah.
So who here is winning at that and knows how to do it like this and can jump on a call for an hour with me and just walk me through something?
Yeah.
And get me one step closer.
Yeah.
Like, that would be huge value. And you're the guy that can make that match happen.
Yeah. Well, his answer would probably be, you should hire us and do the $1,000 funnel.
That's exactly it. Because he was completely, he was just completely like this when I said, hey, here's my pain.
Yeah.
Here's my pain. You have the solution. Can we do it? Like,
did you see the scuttle on Facebook yesterday and today?
What is a scuttle?
What is a scuttle?
I've never heard that word before in my life.
Scuttle is like a small, like, little tension between people, like a small little battle, not necessarily battle from the battle, but skirmish is like, hey, we're not going to actually go into like a skirmish, but a scuttle. It's a
so it's a pre-skirmish. A scuttle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Where was it?
On the icons page on Facebook.
No, I didn't.
Sean Douglas posted that he was invited to a national broadcasters thing, which is basically
I saw that.
Well, and then Steve posted on the icon thing that if you do that event, you can't do his event because it's a direct competition. So as podcasters, you can't book both. And then podcasters push back, like Sean and Carson and a couple other people were like, no, there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to do what we do. There shouldn't be like a non-compete thing here, and pushed back on him. And he's like, well, let me rethink this and all that kind of stuff when he got the pushback. But people basically called him out. It was interesting. I just kind of kept my nose out of it. But
yeah, good idea. Glad I missed it. Listen, what he's doing is great. I think it's fantastic. But to your point, he's monetizing. He's so focused on monetizing everyone in the room, including us, that he's missing the value for us has stopped.
Yeah.
Like for me, the people in the room, this summit was not like Austin.
No.
Austin, I booked 50 guests. This one, I was struggling to find maybe 5 to 10 that I was like, yeah, I want them on my show. Totally different audience.
Different feel overall. It felt much more you.
Yeah, the venue was just a huge debacle. Yeah. And that had to do with it. I think there was mold and stuff going on in there. That's why I had a migraine for 3 days. Wow. Overall, the value was not there for me.
Right.
The only value was with other icons and reconnecting and creating new partnership opportunities. And that's something I took upon myself to do.
Yeah.
So the event itself was just the catalyst. Yeah. But nothing like the last one. So I definitely feel that's going down. Other podcasters spoke with me, same thing, other icons, I should say. And they were like, yeah, I don't think I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? Like, what happened? And they're like, well, I was told that this one was going to be different from Austin, that they were going to do a different type of format, or whatever. And it was exactly the same. And except it was less.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And I think the value is depreciating for at least repeat icons.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And for me, I'm trying to step up my game, but I'm not getting a step up in the people that are attending either. Like the quality of the people there for business specifically
Sure.
wasn't there. The pitches, whoever's coaching them is doing a horrible job coaching them.
This year was terrible.
Yeah. So
I think
it was
day
a good
2
event for
and
me.
day 3, the pitches got better
Yeah.
from our coaching from stage.
Yeah. Yeah. And from one-on-one talking to people and saying, hey, tune this, and that kind of
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
And I know you did that a bunch, and I did that too a bunch. Yeah, I think that, I mean, let's be honest. The economy here of what's going on is that he brings us in to build his authority as an authority in the space. So he's piggybacking off of the authority in the room by other iconers to build his own authority. Then he's using us as a tool to pitch his programs, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that model. But other than a hotel room, we're really not getting anything. And to
Correct.
be honest, to be in some of the sessions was painful. Although I thought that his other pitch guy that came in and did the session was much better than the two from Austin. Overall.
Oh yeah, this guy's talk was so much better. It was cleaner, it was right. He was just more polished, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I probably won't go back. I like Steve a lot. I think that what he does is good. I think that I've grown past where he's at with what he's doing, unless he changes something.
So we were out for dinner, few podcasters, and it was cool, man. I created like, hey, let's go out for drinks or whatever. So we had 14 icons showed up at the restaurant, which was great. And in the car, I was Ubering because I had my car. So I was bringing guys with me. And in the car, we had great conversation. And we created the new possibility. And whether this is with or without Steve means no thing. But I'm sitting with it. And if your game, actually being here right now, if your game, I don't know how good you are at organizing things. Are you good at like?
Yeah.
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 And the guys were all about it. Like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do a podcast mastermind on a cruise.
I'd be sick. Yeah.
Let's do a 3-day cruise. We'll do something small. The destination means nothing, right? You do one of the inexpensive ones to the Bahamas or whatever.
Yeah.
But the value is enormous. I did this once with Chris Kremitzos, who runs Podfest, and he did a marketing cruise.
Yeah.
And there's some organization that goes into it because he booked a room for the 3 days. So it was like a mini conference, but it was a small room, right? That could hold like 50 people or something.
Yeah.
And we did workshops and learned from each other. And he put each one of us up there to teach as experts. So we each taught the thing that we're winning at.
Yeah.
So everybody else was like, oh crap, that's what I'm missing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it was just huge value, dude. So think of it, I guess, as a short form of your idea camp.
Yeah.
But on a cruise. And then we all drank and hung out and smoked cigars.
Yeah.
The bonds were fantastic over 3 days, day and night, where it wasn't like you were running away from the venue afterwards, because your head was like, this was so painful, but it was actually like, hey, I can't wait to see you for dinner. And then we'll go grab drinks out by the pool. Yeah. I think that could be awesome and epic. And I have no problem setting that up, but I'll need one or two guys to help organize it.
I can help. And I think that was one of the big markers that was different between Austin and here was the location didn't facilitate community.
No, it
took
did the opposite.
away from. And because the location of where it was, there was no centralized hub. So other than the meeting room, which no one's going to hang out there. And there was no centralized restaurant there. So there's no place there. And there's nothing really around it. So there wasn't just gathering places off site if you were just grabbing something with a couple people you wanted to kind of debrief with. So what he's building is a place for community. And when you take the community away, it just becomes a painful pitch session.
There was a lot of pain this weekend.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. And to not get paid for pain, that's not a good play.
Yeah. That said, there were two major things that happened for me.
Good. What?
That were really good. So anyway.
Do you want to share?
Sure. There's a TEDx event called Lincoln Square that I've wanted to be a part of. It no longer exists, but the person that promotes that is starting a new event, and that was Trisha Brock. and she was there as one of the icons. And I've never reached out to her, but I've always wanted to connect. And so she's sitting there. I'm like, we have to connect. So we went out to dinner one of the nights and with a couple other people, and it was just really, really good. So that was a huge connection. And the second thing was just the beginning of some potential business opportunities there with client stuff and that kind of thing, which is good.
What business? Web design? Or
some speaking opportunities. So that was one thing,
Nice.
which is where I want to move. Also, some just talking to Jim about the business thing he's doing with podcasts is a little bit more. You guys, I don't know. Are you guys still working on that together or?
Jim Beach?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Jim had a breakdown on a call with me and just started yelling and shouting and demeaning me, which was very interesting experience. And I was like, bro, no offense, but who are you?
Yeah.
Like, like we're this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
And he had expectations he was putting on me like I was a paid employee.
Yeah.
And they were mostly in his head. And unfortunately, he didn't communicate them well. So ran with assumptions that I obviously didn't hit those expectations. And then he just went, whack. And I was like, he's like, take 3 days to think if you want to be in on this. I was like, bro, I don't need to take 3 days. I'm good now. Like, no, the way you're occurring, you just showed a side I don't want to do business with. No offense.
Interesting.
But wish you the best with it, dude, man.
Yeah. So
yeah. So is he looking for someone else to kind of jump in now?
Well, he was just talking about having my show on his stuff and that kind of thing. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that.
About that, and see where that goes. So, and then there were 2 or 3 people that might be web projects. I'll do what I call the turn and burn projects, which are all Squarespace projects, which are, we can literally build it in half a day and then train them. And then we of course support it and stuff like that. But usually the project has burnt out its life cycle at that point versus like a WordPress site, which is like a relationship that I just don't want to cultivate anymore. Whereas Squarespace, it's like, hey, can you tell me how to do this? Shoot a short video, send it over, or jump on a conference call, and it's done. And then a couple months later, hey, I want to add this. Can you do some comm stuff? Yeah, I can do that. Then it's done. So it's basically a singular life cycle project versus like larger projects, which just go on and on and on and become sometimes a headache. So.
Sounds like quick cash. So congratulations.
Yeah, I want to do more quick, charge someone $5,000 for a 3-month project or $10,000, or charge someone $1,800 or $2,400 for a half-day project. I mean, the half-day project makes much more sense,
Congratulations, bro, because I know that's a struggle right now for you. So yeah, praise God, man.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into the show. Thank you for that catching up.
Yeah, sorry it took so long.
That's totally fine. I'm actually really chill and relaxed today, and I blocked out like 2 days just to kind of
decompress.
Yeah, and it
time.
Dude, seriously, man. Like I gotta say, I left the event feeling like crap.
Wow.
Which is a weird experience because last time I felt like on top of the world.
Yeah.
So just different. Nothing wrong here, just different.
Yeah.
And interesting all around. All right. So what, now typically we would speak about how you made your first 100K. Is that still what we want to do? And if so, because you and I have had so many offline conversations where your finances are just, shifting right now.
Yeah.
What do you want to speak about specifically? Is it the web design company where you made 100K there and you want to just stick to that part of the conversation? How much do you want to share about current struggles, financial struggles or crisis or anything like that?
Yeah.
Like, where do you want me to take that conversation?
Yeah, I'm an open book. I think definitely talk about the web stuff. I think one of the interesting conversations that could come from that is, what do you do when what you do no longer satisfies what you want to do? If that makes sense. Like, how do you pivot a business where all you're known for and your reputation is one thing and you try to pivot into another? And I can give some insights into that because we're getting on the other side of that now, actually.
You are?
Yeah, some great things are happening in the last 2 weeks. So really,
okay.
Yeah.
This is the missing part of the conversation. So all
Yeah.
right, I'm happy to hear about that. Great.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. Because that's definitely one I can answer because I learned some mistakes along the way and I learned some things that worked. And now I'm stepping more into the things that work and moving past the things that didn't. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Just writing out the question in my words.
Yeah, for sure. How long do you want to go for?
30 minutes.
Okay, cool. That just lets me know about pacing and stuff like that too.
Yeah, that's why I block out the whole hour so we could recap and do what we just did, which is, hey, what was your weekend like? Oh, man, so funny. Yeah, the biggest thing was just having fun with the other bros.
Yeah.
Like, that was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I connected up with some people that were at the last New Media that are becoming great friends, and that was good. I wanted to spend more time with you. It just nothing about the event facilitated making anything easy to connect. So
no, and then the times you did see me, there was like other people right next to us, and you're like, "So, is your life like dying? Like, what's going on?" And I was just like, "Bro," I was like, "TMI, private, hello."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, there were some assumptions of I thought things were at a different place. So I was trying to celebrate in the victory and completely missed it. So
Totally
the other
fine.
time
You were catching me off guard.
Yeah, and the other time we chatted, somebody walked into it as I was asking, and that was awkward too. And I should have just not. I just should have not gone there. I was trying to check into you for the earlier conversation, and then somebody made that awkward. So I apologize.
No, I felt your heart was there, but then I was like what you were asking me was like deeply personal and private.
Yeah.
And like people coming in, I was like, so anybody want a drink?
I apologize. So
that's totally fine, man. I knew where you were coming from.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to burn you at all.
I know that. I know that, man.
Yeah.
You're like, I love you, man. Tell me, like, what's your biggest hurt right now? I was like, oh. All right. Okay. As far as website Jumblethink, is that you do your web design off of that too, right?
Yeah. For now, it's going to disappear completely. So.
Got it.
Going to move towards like consulting around that and consulting other agencies because I know that space really well and use that as a bridge to consult more.
Bro, that's great, man.
Because now I can go in and I'm an expert in that space because we built a multi-million-dollar agency. So why shouldn't I work with agency owners and go, here's the roadmap?
That's it, bro. And you package that and we could talk about it, but create a course and everything.
Yeah.
That's where you can make it serious money. And you're a good teacher, I want to say. When you speak, you articulate really well and clear, and it's a linear thought process.
Oh, I appreciate that. Because I feel like I do none of that. So, and you're the second person that said that in the last 2 or 3 days. So I'm like, I don't feel that way. And to have that affirmation, you don't know how much that encourages me. So, yeah.
Listen, Michael, I'm going to say something to you. I really want you to get it and maybe write it down.
Okay.
Your mind is a liar.
Okay.
Your heart speaks the truth.
Yeah.
Your mind is constantly telling you you're not good enough, you don't come across well, blah, 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 blah. Liar, liar, liar. Yeah. Okay? It's just to protect you from actually creating the life you want.
Yeah. Written down.
Your heart knows that what I'm saying is true.
Oh, I agree with it. Yeah. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. But your head's like, well, later we go, well,
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because that's what it does. Okay.
Yeah.
And nothing's wrong now. All right, here we go.
All right.
In 3, 2, 1. Oh, wait, I want to try something new. Hang on.
Okay.
Oh, you did miss this part of the, I had during the mastermind, Scott Carson share. Well, he had shared with me offline technique and hack he does. And I was like, I shared it with other podcasters. They're like, holy crap, that changes everything. And these were seasoned podcasters.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why don't we just have Scott go up and teach it during the mastermind? And he did. Yeah. And Steve allowed it. So he whiteboarded it out for 20 minutes, this thing where you could go Facebook Live straight from Zoom right now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
He told me about it back when they were doing podcast day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he actually did it for everybody and showed them how to do it.
Oh, cool.
Let me just do it right now. Because I'm practicing it. It's preparing. And it goes live immediately.
Wow.
All right, here it goes. 3, 2, 1. Today, our featured guest is Michael Woodward, and he's the host of Jumble Think podcast. Now, prior to starting Jumble Think, Mike and his team at Woodward Design Group built over 400 websites and web applications for clients ranging from small local businesses like yours to Fortune 100 corporations. He has also consulted with hundreds of other businesses through the Small Business Development Council at Butt College. Is that Butt Beauty College? I don't know. Along with teaching courses on web design, development, and marketing strategies. So he's the consultant type guy that could come in and teach other web designers how to build a multi-million-dollar web design company like he's done. Now, Michael spent 8 years as a pastor in Northern California, working with drug addicts, youth, and those deeply impacted by extreme poverty. His passion is to help individuals and businesses make their dreams attainable through creative thinking, idea formation, and strategy. That's why he's such a great consultant. Michael resides in Pennsylvania with his wife, Jennifer, and 2 daughters, Lucy and Lily. Michael, welcome to the show. Go ahead and fill in some of the gaps in that intro, would you?
Yeah, so it's Butte County.
Thank you.
I thought it was Butt County when I first moved out there.
All right, good. I don't feel bad about that. Dude,
Yeah.
The way it's spelled, I'm like, hey.
Yeah, there's got to be a better way to spell that.
Right.
Somebody wasn't thinking that through in the English dictionary. They got issues.
Cool. So fill in some of the gaps in that intro, would you?
Yeah, so I worked at a church for several years. Economy downturned. They couldn't afford to pay me. So that meant I had to go do something. And that something was go work for a friend of mine in the web space. Ended up building an agency, buying out his agency, buying out another agency, and growing the business over the course of 10 years. It's been an interesting journey of many highs and struggles along the way, which we can talk about for sure. And now pivoting the business again to do the things that feed my soul versus the things that just feed the wallet. We got to have both, right? And so pivoting the business to feel like I'm really stepping into the purpose, created purpose of what I'm called to do in this season.
I love that. And we're definitely going to get into that conversation. I know you and I were just here in Tampa, Florida at a podcasting conference, and that was a topic that came up. And I know I brought that topic up on the stage as well. Is like, what are you doing? Are you just chasing the dollar, the almighty dollar?
Yeah.
You know, are you trying to fill the wallet or fill the closet or fill the garage? Is that your end goal with your life? If so, once you get it all, the way I did, you're going to end up empty and alone.
Yeah.
It's a lie, right? So we'll get into that. Awesome. Go ahead and share something personal about you that very few people in your business life actually know, Michael.
Something personal about me that people in my business world wouldn't know. Well, I'm pretty much an open book, but here's a crazy story. I've been shot at by an Asian gang.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You and I have been friends now for a while. Like, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
What did you do? Did you provoke them?
No. So I was working at the church in an urban setting, very poor area, meth capital of California at the time, walking from my office to my house, which there's an alleyway between the two. And so I get to the alley and you hear pop, 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 pop. And I look down the alley, probably about 25, 30 feet away. I'm hearing, seeing the sparks of gunfire and shooting down towards me in the alley. I go running back into the office. It's probably 10 or 11 o'clock at night, hit some linoleum, go skidding into the office. My roommates and the other guys that I worked with at the church are sitting in the office. The funny part of it all is I'm clutching onto a box of Life cereal that someone had given me earlier in the day. So I go running for my life, literally clutching onto it as I skid in and call the police. They're like, oh yeah, they're just shooting down alleys. I'm like, well, it would have been nice to know that before I was in the alley, but I didn't get shot. So life is good.
So you were literally holding on to your life.
I was clutching it as hard as I could. That's for sure. I'm sure there's cereal flying everywhere. And I'm sure my buddies were looking at me going, what is wrong with you? They heard it though and ran out. I'm like, why are you running out? And so.
Well, that's a great way to start this episode, Michael. So we're speaking with Michael Woodward. You can find him at jumblethink.com. That's jumblethink.com. That's the name of his podcast. Go check it out. If you're a creative, big idea thinker, that's what Michael speaks about on that show. So, Michael, let's get into the money game of entrepreneurship. My audience loves context. How much revenue did your business do approximately in the last 12 months, gross revenue approximately?
About 90K.
90K, got it.
Yeah, we're in a transition for the business. So we're moving out of what we've done as an agency and into more of the thought leadership consultant space. So it's been a pivot, but traditionally we've done all kinds of numbers from year to year. It really ranges up to, big.
What was your highest gross in this business?
580K.
580K, got it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. How long did it take you to cross the 100K mark from day one of starting the business?
Yeah, so about 3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yeah.
So that's pretty typical, right? Is 1 to 3 years to hit your first 100K Startup Nation. Like you got to pay the piper. You got to put in the work. Nothing is instant. It's just not.
Well, let me back up. That was first 100K per year. So probably year 1 and 2 combined was 100K, and probably somewhere around year 1.5 was where I crossed that threshold. But annual revenue, it would probably be year 3. So
correct. Yeah, that's what we're speaking about.
Yeah.
All right. So here's why I invited Michael to be on the show. Not only is he a friend and a fellow podcaster, but Michael's going through a transition in his business, like he shared with you, and he's moving from the wallet to the soul.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. So I really wanted to bring him on here because maybe you're struggling with that transition right now. Maybe God has tapped you in the heart, right? And put something on you where you're like, man, what I'm currently doing no longer fulfills me. Right. Why is that? This used to be the thing that lit me up like a Christmas tree that I thought I was going to do for the next 10 or 20 or 50 years of my life. And now it's kind of, right? If that's what you're going through right now, then listen up closely as Michael shares what it's like. And I'm guessing as he's going through the transition, there's going to be some things that he's looking forward to or good things that have been happening recently. And then there's most likely going to be a lot of things that just suck.
Yeah.
Right? That going through the suck, I say, right? You got to go through the suck, whether you're transitioning into what Michael's doing right now, or you're starting a new business, you have to face the suck and just go through it. So I don't always want to speak about just the highlights and the triumphs in business and the winnings. If you want all that, go on your social media and you can see everybody, blowing smoke. Go do that there. But I want to share the real stories about the mental game of entrepreneurship. And that's what we're going to get into. So that's why Michael's on the show. Michael, how did you make your first 100K in this business? So go back in time. How did you make that first 100K? It took you 3 years to do it. What are your top 3 tips or strategies that you deployed to make that first 100K annually?
Yeah. So everyone's talking about you've got to build a Facebook audience. You've got to go build a social media presence. You've got to have your business cards. You've got to have your website. You've got to do all these things. None of that built my business. Not how we did it. To be honest, we never marketed the business. I think for 7 years I went without business cards. Our website was always out of date because we're busy working on client work. So I can trace back our success to literally one thing: relationships. And so often in our society, we've moved away from tangible relationships, and they are the sustaining power of entrepreneurship, in my opinion, whether it's processing an idea, whether it's referrals, whether it's customers, you've got to cultivate relationships. And so for us, that's where we built everything. We started with a couple local small businesses, built those, became better at what we did, met more small businesses, joined a networking group, did that for a while.
I'm going to pause you right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I hear relationships, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it makes total sense. However, sometimes we skate over the actual mechanics of building the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to let you get away with just kind of like just going forward. Oh, I just built relationships, and then I built more, and then I built more, and I made 100K. Like, that's not going to help. So
yeah.
What's going to help? Like, speak to us, Michael, about what did you do to cultivate those first two, I think you said two or few, early client relationships when you had no credibility. You're brand new to the marketplace. Like, why should they choose you? Why should they slide their credit card over to you? What did you do to actually get them from a cold relationship into one where they trusted you enough to pay you money?
Yeah. So I had worked for another agency. So there was already some credibility. People knew me in that space. And so when I went out on my own to do this, I had a great friend, a guy that I've played music with for, at that point, 4 years. He played electric guitar. I led worship at our church. We played in other things, and he simply said, "Hey, so and so, this is the guy you need to use." So the pivot for me out of being an employee to running my own business started with that one client, and he had some influence, and so he said, "Hey, I have a guy that uses my stuff," and he started referring me. And so that was the first step, just simply being able to access the people I was already around and ask them for that business, and for them to then refer other people to say, "Hey, you have a track record of doing this with the company you did work for. Now you're out on your own. We love you. We want to support you." So that was step number one. You utilize relationships you already have, cultivate those, and ask people. Let people know what you're doing, and let them know how they can help you. And often we forget that. We say, "Hey, I'm launching a new business," but then we never say, "This is what I need now." And we don't allow others who love us dearly to be a part of that story, to help us in the journey. So letting people know what the pain point is. I need customers. Okay, well, what do? I build websites. What kind of websites? Well, I built small business websites. So I began to define what I was looking for and communicate that in the relationships I already had. Now that opened up a new door because now I have customers. So one of the first things I ask a client is, "How did you find us?" So always thank the person that sent you the business. And then the last thing I always ask is there anyone just like you that is experiencing pain in what they're doing with their web space? For us, it was web space that we can help and solve just like we did for you. So ask that at that point. And then often when we have a customer, once the project's done, most people just go, "Okay, I've got to move on to the next thing." Cultivate that relationship. Check in with those people. "Hey, how is this working out for you? Is there anything else we can be doing?" And you're doing that for two reasons. One, it will continue to maintain that relationship. So when they do need something, they think of you immediately. And secondly, it keeps you on the front of their thoughts, so that when they bump into something or somebody that needs what you have, they're going to go, "Hey, this is the guy to use. Go over here." So that's tier number one. Establish relationships, then build on those established relationships. Two, get into a good networking group. A networking group, it's hard. There's BNI, there's LaTip, there are other local chapters of different networking groups. And for me, this were years 2 through 5 of our business really sustained. Was we went in there and we were with intentional people who were good at networking. So you want to find people that you connect with, but you also want to find people that are actually going to do the deed and give you referrals. And not every networking group's like that. Ours was, and there were huge numbers going on in our group because we really knew the power of referring each other. And so getting specific with what I wanted. hey, I am looking for a website. I'm looking for a client that needs a website in the clothing space that wants to do retail globally. They're a local small business retail shop that wants to build their business bigger. And then if you can even go more specific and say, I want X company. And if they're local and they're in your networking group, somebody knows that owner and they can go, hey, Joe, I have a guy that does web work and he'd love to work with you. He's a good friend. I trust his work. And so be specific with those asks. And then the other thing is just continue to cultivate relationships. And what I mean by that is be intentional about building them. Often we go, hey, this is my friend Joe. But what that means is I talk to him maybe a couple times a month when we bump into each other at the farmer's market or at Target or wherever you go. And so be purposeful of saying, hey, Joe, let's grab coffee or let's grab lunch or let's do whatever, and build a wide net of true friends. You're not taking advantage of them in this journey, but build true friendship where it's mutually beneficial and you're there for them and you're supporting each other.
Powerful, powerful shares, Startup Nation. Lots of golden nuggets right in there from Michael Woodward. And the main theme is referrals and relationships. Ask for help, right? So I'm going to do a quick recap here, Michael, because you gave a lot of good nuggets there. All right. And I just put them in my words. All right. So number one, Michael says, leverage referrals from your existing relationships. Yep. Leverage those referrals, right? So you have existing relationships. Do maybe like what Michael did. If you're about to start your new business, then leverage your existing relationships from where you're currently working and ask them, hey, I want to start this new business. Who do you know who needs what I'm about to offer? Like, and get actually land clients before you make the leap. Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah. Right? Actually have clients sliding credit cards to you before you have a website built. Right? Before you have everything figured out. Yeah. And maybe you're thinking, well, Joseph, that's way too scary. You know what's scary? Going broke. That's what's scary. You know, it's less scary just to ask for people, ask them for help. Right. And get specific in your ask, right? So that's number two, ask for help and tell them what you need specifically. Mm-hmm. And Michael, I know that's simple that you share that, but that's brilliant. And I say it's brilliant because very few people actually get specific in their ask. They just say, oh, I need help with clients. I need more clients. Yeah. That's not specific. I can't help you with that. Right. Go ahead. You want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we overcomplicate simple solutions. That's something that we do as entrepreneurs. We're always looking for bigger and better, and sometimes smaller and much more narrow is the better solution. And so that's one of the things we strive for at everything we do is what is the simplest solution for this problem? Because it's probably the best solution for this problem. If you get rid of the bloat, if you get rid of all the pain points, all of a sudden there's a lot of clarity. So I think that that's what most people miss when they go into business. They overcomplicate what they're doing in very simple spaces. So if you're building a web agency, what do you need? You need customers. Well, what kind of customers? Ones that pay the bills. Who are going to pay the bills? Well, if I'm in a local market, what businesses are those? And who do I want to work with? And what kind of reputation do I want to build to be known for? For us, one of the quick points to build was we started working with attorneys. And we did a series of attorney websites back to back to back. And they all just said, hey, this is the guy to use. It's awesome. And so you sometimes find you fall into a little pattern where you're like, we do quick work, do great work, and we get paid a lot of money for these easy projects that we're just known to do. So simplicity is never a bad thing. And I think we make it out to be bad sometimes.
Startup Nation, put down your ego, like Michael's saying, and just get simple. Yeah. All right. Michael also says, number three, ask existing clients for referrals. Right? So ask your existing clients, the ones you're actually getting results for. You're helping them win and grow their businesses. Get them when they're hot. It's like when you go to an event or you give a talk, the best time to get a referral or a testimonial is right after you get off stage. Right. Why? Because the enthusiasm's high. Yep. So after your client, like you get a win for your client in their project, like ask them for a referral right then when they're like, man, you're the best. I can't believe you helped me do that. Great. Who do you know within your network where I can create the same value for them or whatever, right? Ask for that referral. And then Michael adds another important step, which is after the project is over, post-project, stay in touch with your clients,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that they know you still know, like, and trust them, right? That you're still in relationship with them. So many times we end relationships when we no longer see anything to get out of them.
Yeah.
Right. And we do that in our personal lives and we do that in our business lives. Something I introduced in my personal life, and I think it could really continue in the business world as well, Michael, is when I would end a relationship with a girl, I would have the conversation of, hey, this is no longer a fit. However, I don't want to end our relationship.
Yeah.
But I would like to complete the romantic side of our relationship.
Yeah.
Right. I'd like to complete it. And there's no ending of anything. I just want to complete that and continue on in the relationship because we've built so much value together and I know you and we like each other and all this other stuff. And I think we could do the same thing in the business world as well. Hey, we completed that project, but I want to continue in relationship with you. Continue to reach out to me. Let's go grab a drink or something. I want to know how you're winning in your business. Mm-hmm. And maybe I could share with you what's going on in mine. Yeah. Is that something you'd like? And I couldn't see a good client, saying no to that. Michael, what shows up for you in that?
For me, there are projects that perfectly.
Say that again. The mic
sorry.
Cut.
Yeah. So there are projects that go perfectly and projects that go poorly. So, and you're talking about relationships and how some will be forever and some will be for a season. So how do you navigate that issue? And so for us, there are times in which we've had bad partings with clients. It just happens. I can think of one client and we worked with their team and their CEO came in and said, I hate this. And I said, well, we built what your team wanted and what's going to serve you best and what you're trying to build. And he said, I hate it. And the client's always right. And it was my job to literally look at him. And I said, he's screaming at me. I said, the client isn't always right. The client gets what they want. But my job is to be your advocate, even if you don't see that. And so it's hard sometimes when things don't go perfectly that you have to step back and go, how do I navigate this when things are going poorly? How do I transition this? How do I still serve them? One of the things I said, I was sharing this at New Media Summit with some people, and part of the reason why I'm transitioning our business is that I have a model that when I stop loving my customers, I can no longer do the work. And so if I'm not honoring them, if I'm not loving them in that, then it's no longer a good fit for us. And so we've had to navigate that at the macro or micro level with individual clients. That's like, hey, it's been great. We've been working with you for 4 and 5 years. You're at the point now where you need to bring this internal because you're just too big for what we need to do. Or on the flip side, hey, you're just not a good fit for us anymore because your demands are crazy.
Yeah, we've all had those.
Nice.
All right, so Michael, let's transition right into that. Okay, what do you do when what you do no longer feeds your soul?
Get quiet. It is easy to rush from thing to thing. And in the chaos of tension, the thing we want to do is resolve the tension. So we force a solution, we force movement. And sometimes when you're in tension where you're like, I am not feeling fulfilled, I'm feeling tension of dissatisfaction or no joy in what I do. The thing is to jump ship and move on. And
what if you don't see another ship passing by to jump onto?
And that's what I'm saying is you have to get quiet to listen. And so often we're trying to move quickly, and quickly is like the worst way to move fast. So when you're moving quickly through solutions, you're responding. You're adapting based on situation. You're not being proactive in making decision. You're reacting. And so we want you to step back and say, I need to get quiet here. I need to reflect on what's really going. I need to find as one of our guests once said, the small voice that leads me into destiny versus the loud voice that leads me to destruction. And often when we're pivoting things rapidly, we're listening to the loud voices, whether it's friends or family that's saying, you need to get out of this or whatever it is. And so first step I would recommend is if you're in transition, you need to get alone with yourself. You need to get alone with God. And you need to really take stock of what isn't working, what you're really feeling, what is the tension. Because sometimes it could be that an offering is wrong. So for us, we used Drupal for a long time. It became a pain point eventually. And so we reevaluated and we changed that pain point by switching the platforms that we offered. So that was a way to, alleviate that.
So let me ask you this. What was that like for you personally, getting quiet and really assessing where you are and it no longer lights you up, and what it is that actually feeds your soul to then step into and jump ship into, that new future? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. I think people want it to be easy and comfortable, but it's uncomfortable because you have to get real with yourself. And so for
Well,
me
let's speak about you first. Yeah,
yeah,
you personally, like walk
yeah,
us through that mental
yeah.
game that happened.
So for me personally, that looked like first, it's like AA or something like that, where you have to acknowledge that there's an issue. So for me, it was like I think I can make this work. I think I can still do this. And then, at the end of the day, I'm wanting to jump out a third story window because I'm just going, I hate working with X, Y, and Z, whether it's a client or a project or whatever, and you're just dissatisfied. So for me, it was like this turmoil of like, I could, but should I? And
Mm.
so that tension is painful because you're like, I built this thing. It's been so successful. Why wouldn't I want to do this anymore? It's what I know. And then you have to get real with yourself and say, but it doesn't work. It's not working for me anymore. And
That goes right back to what you and I said before we jumped on,
yeah,
that I say all the time. Your mind is a liar. Your
yeah,
heart speaks the truth. Your mind
yeah,
is telling you, hey, you could do this. You've already done it. Like, you've already made millions, blah, blah, blah. You could do it again. You could rebuild the ship.
yeah,
But your heart is like, no, you
yeah,
don't want this anymore. It's
yeah.
time to go.
So for me, I was in the middle of that where everything on the outside looked great. And in many ways, financially, things were great. Things were really good. And I had a coach who I love, and he has a British accent, so it makes it even better.
That's just lovable.
Yeah, it's just like, I just want to sit with you and you tell me everything I'm doing wrong because it still feels so good. And his name's Graham Skinner. And he looked at me, and we're talking about, we were building out agency levels. And so who fits what shoe in the tree of what we do, and who's the right fit. And he looked at me and he goes, Michael, what do you want to do? I looked at him like, Graham, what do you mean? What do I want to do? I have to make sure we're hitting payroll. I've got to make sure customers are happy. We've got to do all of these things. I've built an agency. There's responsibility here. And he goes, yeah, but you get to choose what you do. And that's really, I think, the catalyst that started the journey for me, of somebody else saying, hey, things look good, but are they? Are you really doing what fulfills you? And there are good things, and then there are right things. So just because something is good and looks good doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. For some people, being a billionaire looks good, but it's not the right thing because it will lead them to a place of destruction. Fame, same thing. For some people, they can manage that. For others, they can't. And so for me, that was the catalyst for the journey of him saying, Mike, you get to choose what you do. And that's still a question that I wrestle with every day. What is it that I want to create? What is it that feeds me when I create this? Where do I find most significance? And so that's where the journey started in this transition for me.
Startup Nation, that's the question I want you to sit with for your homework assignment. Yes, I'm giving you a homework assignment this week. Before our show next Thursday, I want you to sit with this question that Michael just presented. What is it that you actually want to do? Yeah. Not what do you have to do? That's clear. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Sit with that, get quiet, take Michael's advice. There's strong wisdom here.
Yeah.
All right, we're speaking with Michael Woodward. You can find him at jumblethink.com. That's jumblethink.com. Michael, we're about to enter the hustle round. This is where I'm going to ask you 10 quick fire questions. You'll have about 3 seconds to answer each. It's just for fun. Don't overthink it. Are you ready, sir?
I am.
I love doing that to people that I know are overthinkers, to say, don't overthink it. All right, Michael,
what are you saying? I'm an overthinker?
I'm not saying that, but you just did. All right, so Michael, what's your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
The freedom to create the life I want.
Got it. And what is your least favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
The stresses and fears of the unknown.
Got that. What are you most afraid of?
Failure and letting my family down.
Yeah, that's a big one for many of us. What did you spend way too much time doing your first year in business?
Worrying.
Yeah. What secret fear do you have about people or about yourself?
Fear about people would be that honestly, that I'm not telling them what they need to hear, but sometimes I'm worried about how they view me versus being more transparent with them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're always trying to look good or avoid looking bad, aren't we?
Yeah.
What do you wish you had learned sooner in your business?
Don't worry about things. If you're working hard and if you're being intentional about moving in the right direction, it will be okay. It might not seem like it, but just keep on going. As Dory says, the fish from Finding Nemo, just keep swimming.
There's always another ship that will pass by. You
Yeah.
could jump ship at any time. What's a new habit you want to form?
Rest, more rest. And what I mean by that is taking time to think instead of do.
Yeah, I got it. Well, your podcast is called Jumble Think, not Jumble Do, right?
Yeah.
What's a bad habit you want to break?
Taking on projects that aren't a good fit.
Got that. Pick 3 words to describe who you are now.
Man of integrity.
Dude, that's brilliant. Well done. Pick 3 words to describe who you were your first year in business.
Filled with fear.
Wow, you had those down, man. Those are great. And last question, Michael, if you could come back to life after you died, look your family and your friends, your kids in the eye, and tell them only one piece of advice, what would you say to them now?
Be present.
Be present. That's a powerful one.
Yeah.
So many of us miss our lives. We're living in the future or dragging our past into the future.
Yep.
Yeah, but we miss the present. Any final wisdom? What's the one thing you want my listener to know about making their first 100K?
Your life may seem crazy and in the wrong place, but if you're intentional about the decisions you make and you choose to step into the unknown, face your fears, and fulfill the purposes and dreams you have, it will lead you to a place of success. Success is beyond financial, but success will be a ramification, a side effect of being in a fulfilled life. So if you want to reach your first 100K, do significant work that matters to you.
Sit with the question, what is it you actually want?
That's right.
Michael, what's the best way for Startup Nation to get in touch with you if they choose?
Yeah, drop me an email, mike@jumblethink.com. I have no handlers. I have no filters. It comes right to me.
You're like an uncaged tiger, bro. No handlers. I love it. Awesome. Startup Nation, do you enjoy listening to my show, your first 100K? If so, go to iTunes right now and subscribe to the show if you haven't yet. Go ahead and write a 5-star review or a 4 or a 1-star. I don't care. Just be transparent. If you don't like me, that's fine. I actually got, this is great. I'm going to share this live on the show, Michael. I got an email. Someone went to first100k.com and they filled out the comment form and they said, Joseph, I listen to your show all the time. It's an amazing show. It's awesome. I love your guests. It's great. Can you do me a favor and could you speak less and let your guests speak more? Because I really want to hear what they have to say. And my brain wanted to tell me that I should listen to them and there was something wrong with me and how the way I was presenting. And I was like, no, screw that, man. It's my show. If you don't like my personality, go somewhere else to listen to guest interviews. And then that same individual wrote me back like 3 days later and said, dude, I so apologize for what I said. I didn't mean it the way I think it landed. Keep doing. You're actually an awesome host and it's awesome. I just really love the guest interview. And by the way, I'm going through a financial crisis right now, so I may have taken it out on you. Wow. And I was like, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
How people are just going through their own thing. All right. I wanted to share that live. Go and subscribe to the show if you love it. Also, I'm going to be, if you're local here in Tampa, Florida, I'm going to be doing my first live event. It's called Spiritually Driven Entrepreneur Event. So if you're spiritually seeking right now, but you want to transform into spiritually driven, where you actually bring your faith and your beliefs and God into your business so that you stop showing up inauthentically, but you're whole and complete and a powerhouse. If you want that and you want to learn how to increase your revenue by $100,000 in the next 12 months, that's what I'll be discussing at my live 3-day event in person. Plus you'll get to meet me. Hopefully you like me and that's a good thing. And I promise you, Michael knows this, I'm much better in person and more likable in person than I am on my show, most likely. So you can go to josephwarren.net, learn more about that. Michael, thank you for being on the show today. It's been an honor. I wish you God's love, peace, and joy in your life. And I wish you your next 100K, sir.
Thank you so much. Honor and privilege to be with you today.
Cheers, brother. Peace. Nice. I just had to stop the Facebook Live.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. That was a good show. I felt that was a good show. What did you think?
I thought so too. Yeah. I wasn't sure exactly what to anticipate when
Say it.
Well, it's just at the beginning. I wasn't sure exactly where you're going to lead it because we talked offline and stuff, and I wasn't quite sure how you were going to get there. So,
Michael, just so you know, I wasn't either.
Oh, okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Just being real. That's why I was like, dude, where do you want to go right now? Because I'm not sure, right?
Yeah. So I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah. So
that was good.
Thinking along the way. So yeah.
Yeah, and it was good because some of the wisdom you shared is something I'm going to sit with right now. Because past few days and even at the event, I've just been sitting with, is this working for me right now?
Yeah.
I like doing spiritual coaching, but I don't love sitting behind a camera.
Yeah.
Doing, the coaching sessions like this. I like in person. I love in person, dude. And I want to be on stages. I miss it. It's been freaking like 6-7 months since I was on a stage. I have 1 or 2 coming up, which is great because I asked. Mm-hmm. And dude, you want to hear a crazy thing? And this is just how my brain is a liar.
Yeah.
So in my daily holy hours, I've been praying like, Lord, open the doors or whatever. And literally I sense my Heavenly Father saying, my son, I've already opened all the doors. All you have to do is act. Yeah. And I was like, what? Huh? What? Huh? Yeah. Right. And then I went, some guy Facebook friended me and he's the youth group guy. He runs the youth group at a church here, a Christian church in Tampa. And I was like, you know what? Hey. And I just messaged him, hey, thanks for the friend request or whatever. I'd love to come and speak to your youth about what God has done in my life and what he wants to do in theirs. Let me know if that's an interest to you. And did you hear that?
No, it just froze up.
Oh, got it. Well, good thing it was after the show. Yeah. So I messaged the guy back that Facebook friended me and I said, hey, I'd love to come and speak with your youth about what God has done in my life and what he wants to do in theirs, if you're interested. Yeah. And he responded back, dude, I went to your website. I love what you do. Absolutely. I'm interested. Let's schedule the date. And boom, he booked me right there with 3 communications. And I was like, why am I not asking more? If God's already opened the doors.
Can I give you a suggestion?
Please. I could use some right now.
So I agree with you. I enjoy in-person interviews so much more. And in this season, we've only had 2 episodes that weren't in person for February and March of this year. Mm-hmm. Everything else has been in person. So here's my idea. I'm just tossing this out to you. You want to be doing more events, it sounds like. Getting your message out, speaking from stages and that kind of thing.
Yes, but I don't want to put on the events because I don't like all.
Right, you just want to be a speaker, and there's nothing wrong with that. You want to bring a message, share it. It's a keynote, it's a breakout, it's whatever. Mm-hmm. What if you were to dovetail that and make those events dual purpose? Purpose 1, get paid to speak, share the message, expand that. Part 2, be intentional about connecting with some people at the event and do a series. Like if you're doing 1 major event a month, that you're connecting with 4 people that you could use their interviews and record them all on site at the event during the event.
Oh, you mean like interview them as podcast guests?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
Because you were talking about how you hate being on camera like this and doing consulting like on virtual and stuff like that. And I'm sure that transfers over to your show a little bit too, feeling like a little disconnected and not really. But if you were to do that on site and on person, the dynamic changes so much. The interviews are so much more connected. It's been a big shift for me in how I approach interviews because you can read the person better. You can engage better. It's hard to have a conversation really well through this medium of virtual, comparative to a live interview. I mean, it's not a huge difference, but it's enough that for me, unless there's a real reason why I'm okay with doing a virtual, most of them are going to be in person from now on. So
I completely agree with that. I started the show by doing live, and I built a podcast studio at my office rental company, and I tapped all my friends, and I probably did my first 20 interviews live in person, and that was awesome. I love that. And then it was like, oh, okay, I want to land clients that are in other states now, and so we went virtual. But man, I'm missing the in person. That just energizes me.
Yeah,
and it's going and having coffee with a friend. Like, who doesn't like that? That's fun.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is it also builds a different level of relationship. So if you're wanting to cultivate those relationships, that in person brings a different place of intimacy in the conversation, but also in the sustainability of the relationship. I'm much more connected with people that we do the interviews in person than when we do it virtual, because it's all email, then jump on, and then the relationship stops. But once it's in person, it's like, next time you're up, just come by and hang out and that kind of thing. And it makes it much more tangible. The other thing I would say is that for me, the biggest pivot for season 3 is I'm only doing, for the most part, other than a couple new media summit people, interviews that I want to have. So I'm being really curated on the guests that I'm inviting and having on and saying yes to. Because I'm like, if I'm not wanting to talk to this person, then that's going to translate to our audience not wanting to listen to this person. That's been a huge pivot for us. So just encourage you with those two things, that I do think you are different in person when it comes to your approachability, from the standpoint of people then get to feel you versus see and hear you.
So that's clear for you. You definitely see a distinction there.
Yeah. I think that, I just think that you approach conversation differently when it's in person. Not a huge difference, but from the standpoint of, I think you're able to connect better, and that will translate better when you connect more.
It's true. I made a girl cry at my table at the event.
Yeah. That's
I'm like, if I'm not making someone,
right?
If I'm not making someone cry, I'm like, I'm not really connecting.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it. That is helpful. I will sit with, how do I do that? More of that.
Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't have to be a this or that. It could be a this and that, where I could do some Zoom chats, because I ran out of people locally really quickly. But if I could do them intermittently, that still gives me that feel, that energy. That could be good.
Well, and ask your guests, because like there's been some guests that I've had on where I've been like, are you going to be in the Northeast? Okay, then let's figure out where to make that work. Oh, you're not. Okay. Like I have one that's a guest from Texas that I'm excited about. We're going to do that virtual because they're just not going to be in the Northeast. I did one with a guy from LA. His episode went live today, actually. It was massive to land this guy. And I'm just like, I'll do whatever it takes to do this. So we had to do it over phone, which I hate. It's like my least favorite way to do interviews, but it was the way that got me the relationship. So now that's the other thing, is like, we're reaching out to a whole bunch of crazy people to be on the podcast. And most of them say no the first time, but over the course of a period of time, there's one guy that I really want on. He's a restaurateur and really well known. He's the creator of Shake Shack. And so the first answer was no, too busy. Second answer was he's still too busy. And then it was more relational. He's opening up this new concept and blah, blah, blah. And then I followed up the email like, and then they said, but if his schedule opens up in the next 6 months, we will definitely contact you about that. So I emailed back and just said, hey, I'd love to check out the restaurant when it opens, because it's in New York City. And they're like, done, you'll be there. And so now it's cultivating that relationship so that we will get a yes, probably this year or early next year, because we've cultivated it. So I'm playing for the longer game instead of playing for the immediate now. And so I'm doing a lot more work on guest outreach and that kind of thing. But I'm loving every episode because it's bringing me back to the place of what the original intent of the podcast was, and the things that I knew that I wanted to create. So
that's pretty cool that you're willing to follow up. That's always been a weak area for me is if they don't say yes, I've taken as it's my ego. Oh, they don't see my value. Screw them.
Yeah. Yeah. The guest that's on today, I've been trying to get him on for 3 years. And it's a person I know personally too. And we have mutual friends and all of that kind of stuff. And it just worked out this time. Now I only got 30 minutes of his time for the interview, which was a bummer because I do an hour show. Or that's what I shoot for. But sometimes you just go, that's what I've got to take. And now I have that relationship. So the next time he does stuff, I can be like, hey, you released a new book. I'd love to have you on, and build that. So that's like, okay, now we're doing it in person. And now it's a full hour, and that kind of thing. So,
that's really cool, brother.
So yeah, shift for me, a pivot. And I am having so much more fun since the beginning of this year doing this than I was the year before. So I'm excited about it. That's translating to more audience and people connecting and being engaged. And we're seeing more outreach just because there's something that translates there from the in-person and from really fulfilling what I want to create. So
a podcast question for you.
Yeah.
Have you noticed, well, let me just say it this way. I think it was January or December, beginning of the year. My listenership declined.
Okay.
Drastically, like overnight.
Who's your podcast host?
Libsyn.
Okay. So Libsyn's been refining their algorithm. So it might not actually be a change in your audience. It might actually be a change in reporting.
Okay. Yeah, because they did have a collapse day as well, where they were back. They're like, stats are 48 hours. We apologize. They're delayed, all this other stuff. So I'm like, I wonder if a bunch got missed, etc.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We changed from Libsyn to Pippa. It's a little bit more affordably priced. And I feel like their interface makes my workflow much quicker. So it's a usability thing. I tried it out before we jumped ship. They migrated everything for me, and I just went through and before we ever repointed the podcast, I checked it out. And Libsyn always came across very arrogant to me when I dealt with their support. And Pippa's been really accessible and very kind. And I have direct contact to the CEO of the company and all that kind of stuff. And so they're taking it serious. And because they're not tethered to legacy, they're able to be much more forward thinking than I think Libsyn can at this point. Because Libsyn has to think about maintaining what they've built and what they're going to develop future forward. So I feel like Pippa gets upgrades that are much more forward thinking quickly. So for me, that's why I shifted. So
got that. If you don't mind sharing, what's my question? How large has your audience grown? Like, where are you at right now? Because I feel like mine is not really growing. Like, it's growing, but it's like so freaking slow. It's inclining, but it's so slow. And I crossed the 1 year mark, and I see other icons posting in the Facebook page. Oh, within 6 months, I hit 500,000 downloads. I'm so excited. This is a dream come true. And I'm like, 500,000 downloads? Like, what?
Yeah.
Or 50,000. No, it was 50,000. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
50,000 downloads. And I was like, how did they do that in 6 months? Like, I'm at a year and it's slowly doing this. And it's like, what am I not doing? Because people's like, dude, I love your show. You got a great personality. You really pull stuff out of the guest and everything. I'm like, why am I not getting those types of results? And I'm not trying to compare to others, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, hey, I want to see it grow faster.
Yeah, I've been there. The first 2 years were rough for me in that comparison game. There's two things you need to remember. One, most of the people that have rapid growth already have an audience and a platform. So they're converting their YouTube,
right? They're bringing over,
or they have a big newsletter or something like that. They've already built
that makes sense.
Or big Facebook following. That is 99% of the time what I see if somebody grows rapidly.
It is okay.
And I've just called out some people on that on Facebook, not like directly like on the post, but I'll reach out and go, hey, how'd you build this so quickly? Oh yeah, I'm like, you're not telling the full story. And that always makes me really, really, I think it's a lack of integrity to tell the story.
I agree.
Like that. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is that for me, I find that when I put more work in, we see better results. So if I hit the social channels really hard on an episode, we'll see our episodes probably be a third higher than if I just kind of do regular posting. So our audience is 18 to 1200 on an average episode. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. And that's over a course of 2.5, 3 months.
Okay.
We hit about 70,000 downloads about a week ago, but that's over 3 years. What we've done in the second part of 2018 into this part was more than what we did the year and a half before that. And what we're doing now is just trying to think. I want to make sure I'm being right on what I'm saying. Is it a day or a week? In a day or a week, and I'm not quite sure. I need to go back and look at the numbers again. We're doing what we would have done in a month before.
Wow.
So a year ago. So from a year ago to now, we've converted a month into a week and a week into a day. So
yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. So, and it's just that continuity. The other thing I would encourage you in is that you can get big numbers and there's ways to manipulate things and do some things. I can show you how to grow audience by spiking your numbers. So what you can do is we did it in the fall, not to be, just being fully honest. I hired a marketing guy to market the podcast. We had a heavy hitting guest on the podcast that's huge in the millennial money space. And we just came off of New Media Summit and we skyrocketed to number one in
I remember that.
business. So, so that was a huge spike. Part of it was manipulated because we went heavy marketing during that. So it wasn't just like organic growth. It was marketed growth, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just spending your resources wisely. And then after we ran that, our numbers, so if that spiked our numbers for an episode by 1,000, let's say, that retention dropped down to 150 to 200 people after the campaign. So there's some ways you can do that where you get more exposure because you're just visible. Because the algorithm with iTunes is kind of tricky. Yes, it is downloads, but it's also the change in downloads from episode to episode and month to month. So if you see a boost, you'll go actually higher than someone who has more downloads on iTunes, but it's because of the change and growth of the podcast. So, so we run that marketing campaign once, like a month for a week, and we gain probably around 150 to 200 subscribers sustained off of that each time we run that campaign.
How much does that cost you about that campaign?
Like $25 a week.
Okay. Yeah.
So I can get you that contact if you want. And it is a little black hat. Some people frown upon that technique because it spikes your numbers enough to get you up on the charts. It's just a marketing technique. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because, let's be honest, iTunes is not a platform built to be best for podcasters to be found or discovered or engaged with. And so,
well, I think it gives you a credibility play, right? Because even that one time that your podcast was ranked number one in the business category on iTunes, you will have that now for the rest of forever.
Yes.
Like you hit a milestone that very few podcasts ever hit.
Yeah. We're number 13 for all podcasts, number one in careers podcast, often. And that one's so we've been able to get in the top 100 for career podcasts sustained without any marketing pushes lately.
How do you check that on a regular basis without manually going in and searching each category and knowing what category to search?
So there's a website, Chartable.
Chartable. I think I've heard of that.
Yeah. And you can join and it gives you much more like analytics sustainable, or you can just do a quick search and it will show you this category and your up and downs based on that and all that kind of thing. So we're always we're always in the top 300 for careers. We're usually in the top 100 And very often we're in the top 10. For business, we're usually in the top 500, but that can go down to 700. And we've been, hung out for at times in the top 100. So it really varies, but they'll give you an analytical overview of trends for you too over a set amount of time. So that's a great tool to use. Another great way to get a raw sense of your audience, and when I say audience, like engaged audience, versus just they might subscribe and listen from time to time, is Castbox. And if you go in there and pull up your podcast, you can actually see like how many listens and how many downloads. The way I understand that is that, and I could be wrong on this, this is just what I understand from what people are telling me, is that that gives you like engaged listenership versus like an average subscriber or a one-time listener. So this is like a good measurement of like your core tribe, if you will.
That's been a challenge for me. I mentioned earlier that someone wrote in and sent me that. I've only received probably 2 communications, one for each show in a year, dude. And they were, that first guy, he ended up writing a whole thing back of like what he was going through and how the show has helped him so much and all that. So it was a great testimony. And then for the Broken Catholic, a lady wrote like this literally changed my life. This episode, I was going through whatever. And I was like, why did I only get 1 for each, like in a year?
That's typical.
How is that typical, bro?
I struggled with this too for a long time because I'd reach out to the podcast community and be like, how do I grow audience? How do I do all of this stuff? Blah, 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 blah. All the pain points we all have. And they said, make sure you're connecting with your audience. I'm like, what does that mean?
How do you do it? I say it.
YouTube. They're not leaving comments on the episode. It's not, iTunes is built to be a poor platform to engage with. It's a listening only application. That's why I think that podcasters need to unite and say, screw you, YouTube or iTunes. Let's build our own YouTube-esque audio player that's universally adapted. That's good for the community. It's going to build audience and community. That's one of the hard things about podcasting. And from a perspective standpoint, you need to remember that is that podcasting isn't like a social engagement platform like YouTube or like Instagram stories or something like that where you get engagement. It is as close as you can get to radio with engagement. And so you have to then build that on social channels and all that kind of thing. We just started in the last 6 months really getting comments and emails and that kind of thing from people. I've been trying for 3 years to build that. It's something that we've only gotten in the last couple months.
Did you do something specifically, or was it just time finally caught up?
I think it's just time.
That's good news, and it's also depressing.
Well, it's depressing. That's why you have to capitalize on building social communities on the platform of your choice. If you want to be Twitter and you want to kill Twitter, do Twitter. If you want to do Instagram, you want to kill Instagram, do Instagram. If you want to do Facebook, you can do Facebook. Or if you want to do Instagram, you can let that carry over into your Facebook to tell the story. But nail one platform and build your community there. And then I think the biggest thing that I've learned in the last year is that the more you can engage personal touch in getting new audience, you'll see more people engage with that. So what I mean by that is every time I go out now, and I know you're a king of this with your swag and stuff that you wear all the time with different things, your shirts.
Wow.
Yeah. Is like, if I'm in a car, like an Uber, I'll be like, hey, you listen to podcasts? The guy's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what do you like? I'm always looking for good podcasts. So start the conversation. I go, yeah. So do you have any interest in business stuff? Yeah, I have a podcast. Love for you to check it out. Let me know what you think. Here's my card. And I've converted listeners by that little strategy. Then there's engagement. There's already that personal touch. And I think this is where it comes back to the bigger conversation about like in-person versus virtual. The more you can get personal touch with your audience and with your guests, the more ownership that they have with it. And so, yeah, so that's what I would recommend.
Like when I give this talk to this youth group coming up, I think, that's what I do. I would pass out my podcast cards after the talk. This time I realize I'm sitting on a box of my books, like edition 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? They're just sitting here. Why don't I just give them away for free? Autographed copy for free. It's not the latest updated version, but so what? People will get to know me a little more. I'll put in my podcast card, and it could be a kind of cool thing there. So I think I may start doing that, kind of like what that speaker said at New Media Summit.
Business card. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that and download the free Kindle, right? It doesn't cost me a nickel, and they get a free copy of the book. So I think that's going to help. But you're right. It's taking the digital products or offering and translating it into the physical world.
Yeah.
For those physical touch points.
And you got to remember, like Lewis Howes, people rave about him. He is actually not a great podcaster and not a great. He had a platform from playing football.
Right.
So he's not like doing something magical. He just already had audience. And I think so often we forget that, and that it's like, well, why can't I'm as good as him? I'm a better podcaster than him. And people engage with me better, those kind of things. And it gets in that comparison game where it's like, oh, what do I do here? Why is he successful and I'm not? What does he have? Well, he had a multi-million-dollar football career. That's it.
Yeah,
that's the only difference between you and him.
Yeah.
And now because he had that, like I know one guy that was the guy that I launched his episode today was interviewed by Lewis Howes yesterday. And so the guy went on and raved about Lewis Howes and how great the interview was. Hasn't said anything about my interview with him. I could take that personally, but I could also know it's a matter of positioning.
Yeah, he's stacking his own credibility.
Right. And Lewis Howes is a huge win. So I'm now going, well, how can I capitalize on the fact that he was just on Lewis Howes and now he's buzzing? How can I not manipulate, but that's a good word for it. He just launched a book. I have the episode that goes live on the day the book launches. He was just on Lewis Howes yesterday. Okay, so that's a win-win big there. So how can I continue to keep the momentum of him being on all these platforms? So,
yeah, I think that's great because you can name drop Lewis Howes podcast, all these other things ethically.
Yeah.
Just by, and you've already thought of this, but maybe it fills in some gaps, is, my guest today or how I landed Lewis's Howes' guest the day after. Yeah. Or something to that effect where people go, how did you do that? Like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
How to land guests from the top 10 podcasts in the world, like the next day.
Yeah.
Or however, like I would be like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
You could even create a quick little downloadable free course or a PDF. Yeah. And that's your free offer right there. Yeah. Because that's something, dude. Like, take that momentum and turn it evergreen.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are the kind of things that I think start to stack over a course of time. And so I would say just keep on staying the course. It's so frustrating. And here's honestly, I talked about this just recently on an episode. I'm like, year one, I was ready to give up the podcast 3 months in. And I got like a killer guest. It was one of the head writers for Letterman, the late night show. And I'm like, well, I interview him in a month. And then his episode is going live a couple weeks after that. So I have to keep at least the podcast going through then. And to be honest, over that month and a half, that's what kept me going. And then I shared the episode and it gave me a boost and it encouraged me. And so now find things that you can use as benchmarks to encourage you along the journey to keep your energy up, because that will translate in how people hear you and see you. If you're getting frustrated with like, it's not growing, why am I doing this? And all that kind of stuff. I've been there. I'm usually there once a week sometime.
Should I be getting advice from you? No.
Just keep that going. I have a good friend who just got linked as, and I can introduce you to him. He's really cool. His name's Jeremy Slate. I don't know if you know him. He was supposed to be at Austin or Tampa for New York.
Yes, I saw him at 10X and we were sitting next to each other.
Yeah. He's a good friend, and he was just listed as Inc.'s #1 podcast in business right now.
Yeah, I've read the article.
Yeah.
It's not links. Uh, Again, goes back to that full story, full integrity.
Yeah.
It's not Inc.'s official list,
It's a
right?
specific
It's a
contributor.
contributing author's
Yeah.
personal opinion list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and I read that and I was like, but positioning.
But you got to remember, yeah, he has a podcast that's only a couple years old, but he's been podcasting for 7 years. So he already had an audience for 7 years. And so there's perspective on this that you go, well, how did he get listed, even mentioned by a contributor on Inc.? How do you do that, right? And the reality is that it was longevity. Lewis Howes, like, okay, yeah, he's big and he has a platform and all that kind of stuff. He's 736 episodes in now, right? I'm 213 episodes in, right? It's one of those charts where you do the,
Let me ask you this, because I know the volume of episodes really stacks your positioning, whether it be
used to.
Well, no, I don't mean it in a algorithm way. I mean it in whether it's booking those high end guests. Mm-hmm. Like, I know I've heard some guests, they're like, I don't go on a show unless they've had at least 200 episodes, because now I know they're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
So is there a benefit to doing a daily show, because you actually get more episodes, more content, more assets, digital assets you're building, than a weekly? A weekly, you don't go faster than 52 shows a year. Yeah. So to get to 200, I have to do 4 years.
Yeah. And we do 2 episodes a week. And one is a guest, one is topical. I've been thinking about going down to 1 longer episode and combining the 2 episodes, because I have to ask, if the average listener is listening to 6 to 7 podcasts a week, right? How are they going to be able to fit in 2 of my episodes? Am I hurting myself by having too much content? And that's the question I think content creators have to start thinking, is that there is a oversaturation of content on all channels right now. It's been something that I've been talking about with some people lately, is like, what point do we come to a point where the entire thing falls apart, whether it's YouTube, whether it's because there's too much content? That's the same in traditional TV. You've got Amazon Prime, you got Netflix. Yes, they're a streaming service, but then you've got traditional. At what point do they financially not have viability because they have the audience so diluted, where like 10 years ago they were doing 22 million people on a first run episode of a TV show. Now they're doing 1.2 million, 1.8 million. Well, that changes your revenue and that kind of thing. So do you make a better stance by having less content but a larger audience, or do you do better by having a more captivated and engaged audience and do more episodes? That's a strategy question for sure that I don't have an answer to yet. But
you know what my brain's telling me right now?
What's that?
It's like, and this is a weird metaphor, but I think it applies. It would be the equivalent of looking at the cocaine industry.
Yeah.
And saying, well, there's too much distribution of cocaine out there.
Yeah.
The whole industry is going to collapse. Will it?
Yeah.
Like, we need to make it more pure cocaine because there's just too much cocaine content out there. And then the marketplace can't support it.
Yeah.
Is that true? Or has people's addiction and dependency upon it's ever increasing to the point of, just like with cocaine, it eventually leads to physical death.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think content overload eventually leads to digital death of a person, right? Virtual death, all the other stuff.
I think just taking that one step further, there has been, and this is just coming to the forefront now, and with vloggers, there have been a series of vloggers that have either committed suicide or gotten physically and emotionally sick.
Yes, I think that's what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Like, they become meth heads, or, we're going to have content heads, consumer heads, right? They're just going to be creators.
And it's not sustainable. So there's a massive creator who she's like, because of how YouTube is set up and how the algorithm is set up, we are rewarded for having content every day. If we don't do content every day, we don't get pushed up in the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. She pulled away from a multi-million-dollar vlog that she was running because she couldn't emotionally and physically sustain it anymore. She said, if I continued this path, I would have been dead. I probably would have either killed myself or just would have been at the place of complete breakdown. And so she completely walked away for, I think it was like 3 or 6 months, and then she's going to decide what she's going to do after that. So the question becomes, what is socially responsible from YouTube and others space? And that's the question they're being asked right now by content creators. Like, you are penalizing us for not being content creating machines. In doing that, you're burning us out and killing us. So, and there's
which may be their actual goal, which is to weed out the old content creators to make room for the new ones, so that it's a very sustainable system or machine.
Yeah. So it's a very weird time. And I know that there's conversations in the last couple months that have been starting to have, because NPR just covered it last month, actually, about the sustainability of content creation on one of their shows. So it is coming to the forefront, and sustainability from the content creators. How much content can you actually create and have it be good and healthy and sustainable?
Right. And actually go live your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the balance of like curated content versus authentic content, is like, you have to come to a place where you get real with yourself and say, okay, I'm going to be dinged by whatever platform for how I create content, but I've got to choose to be sustainable and true to myself, not to their platform.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some great content creators that they don't publish often.
Yeah.
But they publish when something inspired them to publish in their life.
Yeah.
They're like, hey guys, I'm just jumping on. I was just at this meeting and this happened, and man, I just want to share it with you. Like, don't do this. Right. And it's so much more real and authentic because they're in that moment.
Yeah.
Rather than it was premeditated moments of content. Yeah. If that makes sense. And to me, it's that manufactured content creation that I despise. And people tell me, oh, you got to do it. You got to do it. And I'm like, I don't have to do it. And I don't want to. And it steals my joy. So why would I do it anyway?
Yeah.
I'm not in this for that.
Yeah. And I think there comes a point in which you have to debate your own intentions. There's a guy I know who's a vlogger. He's pretty successful. He gets 8 to 20,000 downloads per daily vlog he does. And then if he gets a big one, it gets, bigger than that. And I want to call BS on everything he does, because I've met him. We go to church together, and I'm like, you are not who you say you are. And other people like love him and all that kind of stuff and that kind of thing. But I'm like, you're not a man of your word. You're not following through with things you say you're going to do. You're not doing all of this stuff, and you're compromising your own win at the cost of treating others poorly. And you only do things if it's right. If it's
good for you.
Elevates you. Not because it's the right thing to do, even though you say you're going to. He's notoriously runs late to every meeting he goes to. I'm like, you are dishonoring every person you meet up with. That's just not okay. Just things like that. And I don't mind people running late, but he knows that he's doing it. And he's like, dude, I'm just going to be running late. And he does that every time. It's like, no, you're choosing to do that. That's a dishonor against everyone else. And so you get to those there's a saying at the Bible college I went to, your giftings will take you to the top, but your character will keep you there. And I think that there's a lot of character questions on a lot of these people's shows and stuff, because the reason that they created it was self-discovery, not to actually create what they were born to create.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think they mentioned that at New Media Summit. Like, people are pitching, or some podcast hosts are doing podcasts to go through, create their own self-healing or counseling. It's, it's their outlet to share their mess rather than actually like showing up. Like, God has put a calling on my life to go and serve people in this way about this topic. And that's what I'm doing, even when I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm there. I do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are days I honestly am going, I got to get a podcast episode out. I don't have time. I've got to get a project done. I've got to do this and that kind of thing. And it's like, even though it's the thing that I feel most fulfilled in what I'm creating right now, there are times in which I don't feel fulfilled in it because other things are taking that. So my goal over the next 3 months is to get down to 3 days of work a week. And then Fridays and Mondays are one day spent for family only. Because I feel like Sundays for me are a wash because I'm at church half the day and I don't feel like I'm really, and then Saturdays are like, I've got to mow the lawn and do all the stuff. So one day a week, just going, hey, this is family fun day. And then the other day, just simply getting alone, processing, thinking, praying at a deep level, and just like really trying to hear God, really trying to process decisions and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, that could be considered work, but it's all about the health of what I'm creating and who I'm creating as myself, you know?
That's very cool. I was listening to a gentleman speak about what you're talking about right now. And he said that Sundays is completely blocked out from doing anything. It's a no doing day. And that includes doing God things.
Yeah.
Right? It's a no doing day. It's a literal day of rest.
Yeah.
So he and his family go to church, come home, and then do nothing.
Yeah.
There's no going and doing family fun days and activities, Disney World. Friends and family are not permitted that day.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of friends and family. And he's like, Saturdays, when people could do Saturdays, that's when we're available for friends and family day. But Sundays, it's literally me, my wife, and my girls, and we just rest.
Yeah.
And with no agenda, every single Sunday, there's no agenda. And we're teaching our girls to live the way God orchestrated. We worship him in the morning, and then it's a day of rest. And we just love on each other in each other's presence with nothing to do and all day to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to create that with my family. I like that better than even doing all the godly things, but it's still work. Yeah. Like even going to church and you have your days at church, that's work, dude.
Yeah. Cause I'm leading worship or I'm doing this or doing that. It's much less than it used to be, but I just, you know, I'm a person who loves leading worship for churches. I love it. Okay. But there are a lot of Sundays I just go, why am I doing this?
That's your heart, dude.
I just feel like it's pulling from things that are more significant.
That's well said. I remember when I had too many godly ministries I was doing at the church, men's group, started a men's group for 200 men and all this stuff. Right. And I was doing all these things and I was actually getting more disconnected from God in my relationship with him.
Yeah.
Because I was too busy doing what I thought he wanted me to do.
Yeah.
All God wants you to do is be present with him.
Yeah.
Just spend quiet time with him. And then he opens doors.
Yeah.
And you step into, but those doors should never distract you from him. And if they do, they're not from him. Yeah. That's from our ego.
Yeah. So true.
I had to sit with that, dude. And I immediately just went and severed all those groups. Sorry, can't show up anymore. What do you mean? Like you helped go back? Yeah. Yeah. It's pulling me away from my relationship with God.
Yeah. It's just interesting. There's a guy I'm going to be interviewing on the podcast. I'm really excited about the interview. His name's Steve Trainer. He's out of New York City. And he has a church that he started with a couple other people. And he had gone to school at Hillsong Church. That's where he went to the School of Ministry and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, their churches are all community driven from the standpoint they're all small. They're all in homes. They're all about relationship. And they do a couple gatherings, larger and more collective, but everything is about a network of just community. And I'm really interested to hear why he did it that way, hear more about the approach, how he's innovating in that space, and maybe not innovating from the standpoint of models and methods, but just returning to more authenticity of what Christ's picture of the church looks like. You know, I don't know. So I'm really interested in that interview. He's also an entrepreneur and has a couple businesses that are pretty successful. He's well tied in the church spheres and like, you know, charismatic and community-based church. But he's like going, this isn't working. I'm going to create something that's different, that seems to be more authentic. So I'm excited about that interview.
I think it goes back to what you said. It's, making it simple.
Yeah.
Right. Getting back to simple. All of God's teachings are simple.
Yeah.
His ways are simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of simple,
yeah,
how interested are you? Like for real, you're not going to hurt my feelings because it's not even a thing. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
But if I leaned in on scheduling a podcast cruise just for podcasters, maybe 15 of us, 15 to 20 podcasters for 3 days, inexpensive cruise out of like, I don't know, Miami or something like that seems to be a good place.
Yeah.
Like what would you be in as to attend?
Mm-hmm.
And then two, would it be attend only, or, actually that'd be really fun to get other podcasters signed up and on board and kind of create something there, organize.
Yeah. I would love to see how it unfolds and what it looks like a little bit more. I would say I'm like 50-50 on it from the standpoint I'd like to see what it actually looks like and that kind of thing. And, but I love the concept, like 100% with the concept. Just want to see it kind of fleshed out a little bit further before I would commit. But I would be interested to go as an attendee and as a part of a person sharing and presenting or whatever that looks like. So, and depending on where it goes and the commitment level, I'd love to jump in and help get the event going. If that's
what's an amount you wouldn't spend more than to go on that cruise for 3 days?
3 days. Okay. Like 550 would be a good number.
550?
Yeah.
So what you said? Okay.
I don't know if that's reason. I haven't looked at cruise prices in a while. I know our cruise when we went on our honeymoon was much cheaper, but that was 10 years ago. So
10 years, that's it? Yeah, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll sit with that.
Yeah.
Because I like doing fun stuff like that, dude.
Well, and I think that for me was one of the, like with idea camps and stuff like that, that's one of the things that I want to be intentional about is building in fun. Because you go to so many of these conferences and summits and stuff like that, and you're just going, why are we making this so boring?
You said it well. You're like, that was painful.
Yeah.
It's not even boring, dude. I would take boring over pain.
Yeah.
It's like, why did I just give 4 days of my life to experience pain?
Yeah.
And then very little reward.
Yeah. There are simple things that Steve does that work against him. Number one, the temperature in the room was way too warm. And there's scientific backing on events on what temperature you need to run. He was about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than he should for comfortability and engagement.
Well, that's because he's in a suit, most likely.
Yeah. Well, that's his. Well, he would have been hotter even than in a suit. It should have been 10 degrees cooler.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
And so that's like a system thing. That's like you're choosing personal preference over conversion at that point. Okay, whatever. That's your call. And then beyond that, sorry, my phone's like going crazy. This stays between us. Okay. Cool with that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't mind a sales pitch event. I get it. It's a business move. He set it up as a business. It's not my gig. It's not how I'd like to set up an event. But, dude, you're running a business, and that's the model you picked. Awesome. I do have a problem with stacking all of the offers, and then on the last day and I actually told those two people, I said, you shouldn't get this because it's not healthy next step for you. And they did it. And then he made a big deal about them jumping in, not knowing where the money's coming from, not having the money, and trying to figure that out. You know, and how great it was that they're going into debt and signed a contract that they can't pay for. Made a big deal from the front of the stage about that.
For real? Because I thought earlier messaging was you should never go into debt for whatever.
Those were the two ladies and the one jumping off the stage. I'm just like, that's where I'm at with it. So I agree with you. Yes. There is like a tiered thing. I was kind of surprised that I got back in. I think it was just because I emailed quickly when he emailed. I probably won't do the event again. I like Steve a lot. And I think when Steve's at his best, he's awesome. But I think that there's some demons there that he has to deal with.
Well,
I think it's the demon of money. So.
I definitely agree with you on that because he doesn't come across Christian. Right? It's all the universe, higher power. It's all that new age.
Jewish.
Yeah, but he's full in New Age spirituality, which is interesting.
Yeah. I got to jump.
Yeah, same, bro.
Thanks so much for chatting. I look forward to connecting soon. Someone's out in front of our house beeping their horn, so I have to see if it's.
That's all. There's your cue. Yeah. This show will go live this Thursday. Okay, so I'll get you
and I'll share it out and stuff. So.
Hey, brother.
All right.
God bless, man.
Let's talk soon.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.